Something else that's happening is your skin is an organ of elimination, and you have 4 organs of elimination. So it's vital, and I'm going to rub some of these out too, because this is part of the medicine. It's vital that you make sure that your other organs of elimination are working properly. So that is your skin. We've talked quite... Hi, I'm Barbara O'Neill, and today I'm excited to share with you some of the top home remedies for skin rashes and eczema. Our skin is not just a protective barrier, it's a reflection of what's happening inside our body. Whether it's soothing a flare-up, reducing irritation, or nurturing the skin back to health, there are natural, effective ways to support your body's healing process. Let's dive into these simple yet powerful remedies that you can start using today to care for your skin naturally. As a thank you for joining me today, we're giving away 100 free copies of my best-selling book to our subscribers. So if you haven't yet, hit subscribe, like this video, and comment why you want to win. Today we're going to be talking about skin. And skin is very important. Remember what skin does? We've looked at that in a few other presentations. It breathes, which means it cannot be blocked because it's breathing. And apparently when they painted the model for the James Bond movie Goldfinger, they had to paint the front part of her gold and film it, wash that off and paint the back part gold and then film her, because you can't cover the whole skin or the person will die. It breathes, the skin breathes. So be very mindful to allow your skin to breathe. The skin also throws off waste. Another reason why the skin should be allowed to have as much air and probably play, I suppose, as much as possible. So be careful what you're putting on the skin, because it can inhibit its ability to breathe, and it can also inhibit its ability to throw off waste. And the skin also absorbs. Another reason why we should be careful what we touch. I was consulting with a lady, she was only in her early 40s, who'd had a stroke. So I was immediately intrigued, why did she have a stroke? She's a chemist or a pharmacist, and she was from one of the Caribbean islands, and she said she mixes all the tablets up together with bare hands. So the chemicals from the tablets are all going into her hands. The same thing happened, I met a vet once, a vet nurse, and she did the same thing, and she had major liver problems. You see, the skin absorbs, so one must be very careful as to what one touches and also what one puts on their skin. But what I want to target in this presentation is 2 sadly very common diseases today called psoriasis and eczema. Eczema is usually the name given for a baby or a child, and psoriasis is usually the name given to the skin disease in the latter years. But I think what we'll do is we'll begin with the babies. Another lady told me that her baby developed eczema after they'd moved into a new house, and the baby was always sick. So I suggested that they go to the real estate and find out if the house was sprayed. Sometimes houses are sprayed with strong chemicals just before the person moves in, and she found that that was the case. And the baby felt it more than anyone because the baby was crawling down on the floor, and the baby had no eczema until they'd gone into that house. So that's a fairly obvious connection. So it could be chemicals, it could be mold. These can be contributing factors. Definitely there's usually an inherited factor, but remember, genetics loads the gun, but it is lifestyle that pulls the trigger. So you could have a whole family move into a house that has just been sprayed with chemicals not long before, and the crawling baby will feel it more because they're crawling on the floor. And the parents didn't realize the danger because they thought, wow, this is a great floor. It's a wooden floor, which means it will be healthy, but then one also has to investigate were there chemicals in the lacquer that was used to paint the floor. So there are many factors that come in. That's why we should all be
private investigators investigating why these things are so.
It's crucial to consider environmental factors when dealing with eczema, especially for babies and young children. Mold and chemicals are hidden triggers that many people don't immediately associate with skin rashes. For example, when one mother discovered black mold behind the crib, it was clear that the damp conditions in the room were contributing to her baby's eczema. Similarly, moving into a home that was freshly sprayed with chemicals can cause flare-ups, particularly in babies crawling on the floor. So if you're dealing with eczema, take a good look at your living environment. Ensure proper ventilation, avoid harsh chemicals, and check for hidden mold. When you investigate your surroundings, you might find a surprising link to your skin's health. Remember, making simple changes in your home environment can go a long way in preventing and managing eczema naturally.
So let's go to the adult eczema, and I'm going to give you the story of my son-in-law, Matthew. Matthew married my daughter when I think they were both about 21, 22, and he had a little bit of eczema. And he told me the story that when he was a little boy, he had very bad eczema. He said he can remember his legs bleeding. He used to scratch so much. And he can remember his parents fighting. The mother didn't want him to have the cortisone cream, but the father did to bring him some relief. And he said, if Dad won, I got the cream and got a bit of relief. But he said it always came back. And so now he's 22, and it's a little bit under control because he discovered if he keeps away from dairy and he only has a little bit of wheat, it's kept under control. There was a little bit in the corner of his arms and a little bit in his hair, but he said it was much managed. And then he moved to Queensland to do a course. And while he was doing the course, he was doing a massage course, he stayed in an old house. Now this house was about to be demolished. So he's 22, I think, at the time. He and another 2 young guys got the house cheap, $10 a week rent, something like that. So for young guys who don't have a lot of money, that was very attractive. So they went into this old house, and unbeknownst to them, there was a lot of mold in the house. There was a lot of big trees over the house, and of course the young guys didn't even think of that. And they were out working all day, so they were just really sleeping there. And Matthew got boxes of bananas cheap. So he was eating, probably half of his diet was just bananas. He said it was just real easy. He'd get bananas and bread for lunch and bananas and cereal for breakfast, and he'd just cook up a heap of veggies at night and have bananas for dessert. They were very proud of themselves that they had this cheap food. But if you know bananas, it's very high in sweet. And he's getting exposure to the mold, and he didn't even realise it because he was sound asleep. If he'd been awake in the room, he would have noticed that it's a stuffy room, but he just kept the windows wide open. So his eczema flared up, and it flared up very, very badly, worse than it, even since he was a child. So he just sort of bore with it, and then he moved back down to Victoria where we were. It's a cooler climate, which is nicer on eczema because the heat can really intensify it. And he went on a fairly strict diet. He eliminated all dairy, he eliminated all refined sugar, he even went on a low fruit diet, and it just got back under control. He found that he could eat some oats, but not the wheat. And then let's fast forward, things were fairly good for another 10, 15 years, and they moved down to Tasmania. And he loved Tasmania because it's cold down in Tasmania. And in the cold weather, the eczema was not as bad. And they had a couple of children, and he was now an architect. And he was doing some work. But when you're a tradesman, you don't get paid until the work is done, and sometimes people don't pay, and so there was a bit of stress in his life. He's got a rented house with his wife and little ones, so whenever stress would happen, his eczema would get very, very bad. And they were living in student accommodation, which was an old house, so a couple of factors coming together there. And it got really bad again. Now about this time, they read the book by by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride called Gut and Psychology. And they looked at the role that the gut played in diseases in the body. And they decided to do a vegetarian version of her diet, which is just soup. So what Matthew did, he eliminated all grain, and right in the middle of all this, he came up and worked for us on our property for a couple of weeks. So I knew exactly what he was eating. So he would have this big pot of soup, and he'd put beetroot, and he'd put carrots, and he'd put pumpkins and sweet potatoes and lots of celeries and greens. He also kept away from the nightshade group of vegetable, which is bell pepper, tomato, eggplant and white potato. So that was what was in his soup. And he ate 2 bowls in the morning, 2 bowls at lunch and 2 bowls at night. Now he was also eating with us, so we'd have the legumes that we have, and he'd have some salad, and at lunchtime he'd have some of the cooked vegetables we were having and some of the legumes, and he always walked out the door with a handful of macadamia nuts and a carrot. That was his dessert. And his eczema totally cleaned up. He said for the first time in his life, it totally cleared up. But it took a couple of months to do that, since those other foods were out of his body. He always had a long blonde ponytail. Well, he's cut his hair short, and that helped to clear up the eczema in his scalp. His story is quite remarkable, because it shows how changing different foods helped him to manage it. But what he also had to do, he also had to go on an antifungal diet. So he had to get his sugars right down. Now, when he was living with me, he did not eat any grain and he did not eat any fruit. Now, it's probably 10 years later today now, and Matthew eats fruit, and Matthew eats a little wheat, and Matthew eats some oats. But can you see that while he was conquering it, he totally eliminated that? So a lot of people have found that just eliminating the wheat and the oats and the peanuts and the dairy and the refined sugar, that is enough.
Matthew's experience highlights how essential it is to focus on food choices when managing eczema. When he eliminated inflammatory foods like wheat, dairy and refined sugar, and added healing foods such as fresh vegetables, his eczema cleared up for the first time. It's also vital to address underlying factors like stress, which can trigger flare-ups. While dietary changes play a huge role, incorporating other remedies like herbal teas, anti-inflammatory foods, and even avoiding harsh chemicals in skincare can speed up the healing process. Another important aspect is maintaining a healthy gut, as an imbalance can contribute to skin issues. I always recommend a clean, whole food diet to support your body's natural detox pathways. Remember, it's not just about what you put on your skin, but also what you put inside your body that can make all the difference in healing eczema naturally.
Something else that's happening is your skin is an organ of elimination, and you have 4 organs of elimination. So it's vital, and I'm going to rub some of these out too, because this is part of the medicine. It's vital that you make sure that your other organs of elimination are working properly. So that is your skin. We've talked quite a bit about the skin, and that's your natural clothing, making sure that anything you put on your skin is natural fibre or natural creams. And if you do put anything on the skin, you can try the aloe. Aloe vera can be very soothing to the skin. You can try it. What some people do, they'll try a patch there, they'll try the coconut oil somewhere else, and the coconut oil can also be applied to the skin. But what I have found the most effective is ice. Ice kills the inflammation, kills the itch, and allows that skin to heal. The other organ of elimination is your kidneys, and your kidneys need you to be drinking a lot of water. If you're 100-pound try for 2.5 quarts. Bring it up if your weight is more. So 1 organ of elimination, 2 organs of elimination, and the main one we're going to look at now is the colon. So the colon should be evacuating ideally 3 times. If you're eating 3 meals, it should be 3 evacuations a day. If you're eating 2 meals with a very light supper, probably twice a day. So how can you encourage that? Most people find that once they start implementing all of this, the colon starts to evacuate a lot more effectively and regularly, especially these little chia seeds and flax seeds. They're very good at stimulating the colon to start moving more. And as I showed a little bit earlier in the week, squatting to go. So you can buy something called Squatty Potty that puts a little stool around the toilet and it keeps your knees up. And when you squat, it opens the last part of your colon so you can evacuate with ease. When you stimulate the liver to detox more effectively, the waste is going to be coming out of your skin, your kidneys and your colon. Now, if you can ensure that these two here are evacuating effectively, it takes pressure off the skin. And when someone's got psoriasis or eczema, they want to alleviate that skin. So let me finish with a story of a man who came to us from Saudi Arabia. This was 3 years ago now, I think. He was 40, and his story was interesting. He said that he'd had eczema, then psoriasis, since he was about 10, and he'd used cortisone most of his life. Whenever it got bad, he put cortisone on, and as he testified, as most do, it always comes back. It's not a cure. It just relieves if it's really bad. He wanted to conquer this, so he started Googling around looking at psoriasis, and he found a website called Cortisone-Induced Eczema. And he said a German doctor resides over this, and this German doctor has discovered that this cortisone that's been used so much, and most doctors will try and get you to have it very lightly because they know it's not the best cream. It certainly can bring relief, especially when it's really bad. And this German doctor said there's only one way out of this, you've got to stop it. You just got to stop applying it. He said you're going to go through living hell. Just live in a bath with sodium bicarbonate or oats in it. Some have found an oat bath relieves. It's going to be very, very bad. But he said eventually the body will get used to it. And he said he'd just gone through that. He'd just gone through 6 months of that. He said it was very, very bad. When he came to us, there were little patches of psoriasis, just little patches, and the back of his neck was like crocodile skin. It was really bad. He was with us for 2 weeks. He did 2 lots of juice fasting. We had him on liver herbs. We had him on the chia and the flax. At the end of the 2 weeks, he said to me, I'm very disappointed. He said, there's no real improvement. And I said, I understand. I said, I do not think you will see a real improvement for 2 months. You've got to give your body that amount of time to get the irritants, especially these, out of the body. He emailed me exactly 6 weeks later, so that's 2 months after he stopped. He said, I cannot believe it, my skin is totally clear.
I want to emphasise that our skin is deeply connected to our overall health, and treating eczema or skin rashes requires more than just topical solutions. When you support your body's natural detox pathways, like your liver, kidneys and colon, it can make a huge difference in how your skin responds. For example, a clean diet full of water, fibre and healthy fats can help reduce inflammation and promote healing from within. Another powerful remedy is the use of natural oils like coconut oil, which helps moisturise and nourish the skin without harsh chemicals. But beyond external treatments, it's vital to focus on gut health and circulation. Remember, healing takes time, but with consistency, your body will eventually find its balance and your skin will show the benefits. So remember, managing eczema is all about understanding the triggers in your environment and making small lifestyle changes, like improving your diet, reducing exposure to chemicals, and using natural remedies. It's not always an easy journey, but with patience, you can find what works for your skin. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tips on